Most business owners are looking at dashboards that make them feel incredibly productive and good about their business. Because let's be real, clicks and impressions and gorgeous reports can make you feel like your marketing is working, even when growth is flatlined. In this episode of Humans of Growth, I sit down with Tiffany Wade, the media director over at Hunter BluMedia, to dive into this uncomfortable truth. A lot of brands and a lot of businesses are measuring what is easy instead of what is actually driving results. We unpack what it looks like to move beyond vanity metrics, understand your audience on a deeper level, and build marketing that creates real connection, trust, and growth with your audience. Let's dive into the episode. So, Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to just talk about all of the things.
So, Tiffany, before we dive into all things marketing, I have the most important question for you. Tell me a little bit of who you are as a human. What is bringing you joy right now in a world that is on fire?
Absolutely. Great question. As a human, I will start with I'm a mom. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. So they tie up a lot of my me time, honestly, but all in good ways. Aside from that, I'm active in my community. I always want to kind of give back. So I find myself either volunteering or mentoring those young professionals kind of in the media space, or getting them into that world. I like karaoke. I sing all the time. I'm a karaoke girly.
Get it, girl.
And when I find time, I do enjoy cooking. I just have to find time to do it. And then my daughter is also in a lot of sports, and so I have become an avid sideline mom, coach mom of sports that I've never played in my life. So that also brings me a lot of joy of screaming side out when I have no idea what that means, at volleyball matches or softball games.
Oh my God, I remember the days of elementary school, middle school, high school sports.
I literally always coach myself. I'm like, you're not going to be crazy. You're not going to be crazy. And then stuff happens, and next thing I know, I'm up screaming and I can't help myself. So I don't scare kids, obviously, but it gets
if you did, it would be okay, it just means you're a good cheerleader. And if you're a good cheerleader for your kids, you're a good cheerleader for your clients, right?
Absolutely. I love that. I love that take. I'm absolutely the best cheerleader for my kids and my clients.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so diving into all things marketing, growth, dashboards, measurements. So over the past 6 months, year, 5 years, 10 years, marketing has changed a lot. And that's kind of the understatement, it feels like. So how has the way companies measure marketing success kind of changed over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think more and more people are really looking for connection, whether that's like internally or externally. And so I think companies have really had to reevaluate mass market strategies and really hone into that, finding their niche audience, and being okay with not having these huge numbers of impressions and things of that nature, and really focus on the engagement and how a person, uses their product or service day in and day out on a day-to-day. And so I think that's had to bring a lot of agencies and brands to really reassess and evaluate the overarching targeting approach, with audiences, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's been that shift from kind of the Walmart styled marketing of we're going to serve everybody and we're just going to get the big numbers, even though the profit margins are honestly pretty low for that, to how do we be more like Trader Joe's, where we're just super laser focused on this is our target audience. How do we resonate and connect with them?
Yes, yeah. Or the Lululemons. I don't know if
the Lululemons, the cult followings.
They're no, this is our target. We're not opening it up, for lack of a better term. We don't care if you're fat, and you can't fit our clothes. It's not meant for everyone, which I know that they've even had to kind of walk that back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. Businesses knowing who their core audience is and what their product is catered towards. That means that just means that we are able as an agency to come in and really laser focus in on what your audience is and really building that community. And I think that that's also a strategy that businesses are shifting to as well, where even if it's a salad, or like I said, an actual other product or a service, people, like I said, want to feel that connection and want to feel like they're a part of that community.
Yeah, I think it's definitely interesting how much more people want connection, especially now that we're post-pandemic. People are craving like what is real, what's true, what's authentic in a way that's not cliche. Like, and that's where the more specific, narrowed marketing focus is really coming in. Because like, I don't know if you probably remember the days of like Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. And we just put people through this faceless funnel. And if we say the right words to any of our massive-ish target audience, they'll convert. And we're seeing that works less and less and less nowadays. It's like, no, people want the authentic, real connection with the brands that they're buying from. And to have, to some degree, like that have the cult following.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they want it tailored to them. Right. So, you kind of touched on just a diverse perspective. Like, you really within your audience, you also have to understand and tailor your messaging towards the specific kind of diverse audiences. So women want to be talked to as women, other minorities or diversities want to be talked to, whether it's, Hispanic being actually served ads in their language or anything like that. Like, if I'm a mom on the go, I want to be talked to like I'm a mom on the go. How is this helping me in the moment where I'm using your product? And so I think, you also have to reevaluate your various messaging for the same product. But, and the stats aren't, despite what everyone thinks, we are only progressing towards a more and more diverse or, multi-ethnicity, multimedia, all of the things in terms of consumption, who you are, who you identify as. So I just think brands and agencies alike really need to continue to focus on that messaging as well and know that not one messaging fits all.
Right. People want to know that you understand them and their unique circumstances and their unique demographic.
Absolutely. And that's where the cult following in the community feels like, because at the end of the day, people just want to feel like they're understood and that they're heard. And that, like I said, whatever product or services that they're using to implement in their lives are helping them along the way. Yeah.
And that people want belonging now, I think more than ever, because we've lost, like, if you look back at human history, dear God help us all, we were meant for tribalism, and that was what we were meant for. And we've lost that through the industrial into the capitalistic age and to the individualistic world. And it's caused some ramifications in our society, to say the least. And we're now in this individualistic society where it's like we miss the connection, we miss the community, we miss the belonging. So the more that a company can step in and fill that gap, the better their marketing performs, the better their company grows.
Yes. Yeah. It just makes sense, right? It sounds very rudimentary, but it just, frankly, that wasn't necessarily the landscape of marketing and advertising, but more than ever, especially with the surge of influencers and utilizing, even micro influencers, it's just become all too apparent. And I think it's unavoidable if your agency and or business actually wants to see those bottom line numbers grow. It's essential.
Yeah. And I think to some degree, it's like, how do we go back to basic human psychology and basic human needs?
Absolutely.
Go back to the basics.
I can always go back to it.
Yeah. It's the one thing that no matter how many new channels get added, as the tactics change, okay, what still stays the same? And the only thing that stays the same is human psychology and how we are biologically wired. And if we can understand that, then it makes marketing 10 times easier.
Yes. and being able to back in those metrics against, what we're doing. And that's where I see the industry shifting, is not relying, like I said, necessarily on impressions served, but like I said, what's your engagement level? How long is someone interacting? And also integrating, I work for a CPG client. And so like how to integrate the sales data into the marketing. That's one of our hardest challenges, honestly. And so I just think that's where our industry can learn to kind of stand up and evolve in that sense of connecting the business bottom lines with the marketing objectives.
Marketing bottom lines. And it's hard. And that's the thing is like, the more agencies I talk to is that marketing attribution is so complicated and so messy. Like it's hard. And there's a degree to which they kind of have to be siloed, but they're almost siloed to the point where it's, okay, we know the marketing's working, but are the sales not working because of this? Is like, or is it because of like the marketing isn't actually resonating and it's just fueling an algorithm?
Yeah. And the marketing metrics are towards marketing efforts, not necessarily targeted at sales.
At the sales. And that's where it's like, okay, if my marketing metrics are terrible, but our sales are increasing, then we know that the marketing is actually working and we need to change what our KPIs are.
Exactly. And that's a big shift and push and a lot of conversations, a lot of man hours, I think, with a lot of agency owners that we're all trying to, talk through and discuss of what does success actually look like. And don't be afraid to create your own version of what success looks like. It doesn't have to be, the standard ROAS or, sales or, impression, or like I said, CTR metric. Like I said, really reevaluate what your niche audience is and find what that actual KPI is. And don't be afraid, like I said, to create it. That's kind of where I'm always at.
Yeah, and I'm in an ads course right now because it's the one thing that I don't offer. And they say the way her strategy works is that you optimize for video views and video view lengths compared to impressions and necessarily click-throughs because you're trying to build a loyal audience. Mm-hmm. And it's like, to me, that's super counterintuitive because the few times I've run ads back in like the 2010s, dear God, that feels forever ago. But it's like based upon, did we get the impressions? What's our click-through rate? What was our conversion rate? It's like, there's so much more to growth beyond our go-to KPIs and beyond the dashboard. So I know you have a phrase called growth beyond the dashboard. So give me some context. Tell me the story behind all of that.
Yeah, I think growth beyond the dashboard is alluding to exactly what I was talking about, which is the community and the cult-like following. What I particularly want to do is just challenge those traditional metrics and understand that people are looking for that community and the connection. And the way that I help advertise, with my client is within that type of connection. Not only within the organization. So I think organizational growth is absolutely pivotal. And, you need mentors and you need that organizational growth. And I think that is a direct feel into your agency growth and the growth that you see with the work that you produce within, your own agency team. And so when I mean growth beyond the dashboard, it means, what does that impact look like, not only through measured campaigns, but what does it look like through the lens of the people that you employ, and then the overall everyday feeling that they leave with. And my ultimate goal is to always have my team and my clients walk away feeling fulfilled.
Hey guys, real quick, this episode is sponsored by Parison Network. Parison Network is a matchmaking service that connects businesses to marketing agencies that will actually get you results. There's over 50,000 agencies in the United States alone, and picking the right one can feel, pretty impossible. Parison Network simplifies the entire process by doing all of the vetting for you. From the initial agency search to interviewing and vetting the top marketing agencies, to getting proposals and helping you with the discovery call, Parison Network does it all. This way, you end up partnering with a marketing agency that actually delivers outcomes, not empty promises. If you're ready to stop wasting money on marketing that just doesn't work, visit ParisonNetwork.com and get your free agency search started today. That's ParisonNetwork.com, PERISSON Network.com.
That we actually made an impact not only within our marketing campaigns and client management, but also like, yes, we did something really cool. I think all too often people think, like, I don't know, maybe they take for granted marketing, but as I spoke to you earlier, I came from social work. I have a psychology degree. So marketing just I just wasn't there. But when I found this field, this industry, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like I'm super excited, and not a day goes by that I'm not super appreciative for finding this field and finding this industry. And I think it's just really cool. So that's what I mean by growth beyond the dashboard. It's just, yes, behind the spots and dots, how are we really affecting the lives of our employees and of the people that we're actually serving the ads to? So, and to ultimately find fulfillment.
I like it. And how do you make marketing just feel good compared to kind of the sleazy stuff that we have seen in the past, or the stuff that, like, what is expected marketing from like a legacy brand compared to how do we break away from that, do something that's unique? And maybe the KPI numbers aren't necessarily there right away, but it helps build brand loyalty, or it helps us attract a new audience, or grows brand awareness.
Yeah. I always start with audience. Who are you trying to serve? How is your goods or service or product enhancing their lives? Start there. And then back into, okay, let's find really key moments that are really relatable across this audience that we can really connect to. Because like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about community and connection for me. And so I'm always looking at it from that lens. It has been challenging. I'm not going to lie.
Oh yeah.
Want to hear that, right? It's so easy to just go with, oh, well, this is what we did last year. Just rinse and repeat. Let's tweak one thing, make a platform optimization. So my particular approach is always, like I said, community first, and really looking at who is your audience? What are they using the product or service for? And how can we connect with them in a really key pivotal moment? Whether that's them on the way to a grocery store, like I said, buying a salad kit, or in the thick of things, like I said, as a mom, like, am I looking for shin guards right now? Like, connect with me, with me there. So that's kind of my overall approach. And again, I know it sounds very rudimentary, but a lot of people don't do that. They miss the step. Yeah. They create these profiles of who they think their audience is, and then really run with that instead of actually taking a beat to really assess, well, who is really buying our product. And so that's, what we were talking about before, where everything is so siloed. Like, marketing is completely siloed from like sales. Yep. And so really encouraging our clients and businesses that we work with to really integrate both and see it all as a full customer journey and experience of understanding who your audience is, and not just who you think it is.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, especially like whether you're a small business or you're a legacy brand that's been around for a while, is like, as marketers, it's really easy to create our target audience and like a demographic profile and even a psychographic profile in our heads of like, this is who our audience is because we have data-ish on that. But when was the last time you actually went and did market research and went and talked to the people who, if your target went and talked to the people at your stores and did the in-depth research to see if the marketing campaign that you want to run actually matches who you think the demographic is versus what the demographic actually is. Exactly. And we saw this with Target, was it last year into this year, where Target thought they knew better than all of us. And they rolled back, I think it was some DEI, LGBTQ initiatives. And we raised holy hell about that because they roll back their marketing related to that, and they think we're going to be fine, we're doing the right things because our brand is targeted to 37-year-old white women. Mm-hmm. And we've seen over the past year and a half, their numbers have taken a very heavy beating as a result, because they chose to not pay attention to who their customers actually are versus who they thought they were.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Target is just that textbook.
Listen, I loathe Target. So. Yes.
But back, you felt, I'm not going to lie, I miss the Target smell. I do miss,
yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit, like a little bit of the Starbucks mixed with like the clothes. I don't know. I'm weird in that sense, but no, unfortunately, I mean, you kind of already covered it. Targeted, unfortunately, has been that textbook of not knowing who your actual customer is versus making marketing and in real life business decisions that absolutely affected your bottom line based on who you thought your audience was, instead of doing that market research. So if they can't be a cautionary tale for us all, like I said, you can't ignore it, and people will absolutely, if you're that big and in their face, and if you end up being a phony, people will absolutely raise hell for it and walk on out and stop supporting your brand.
And you would have thought that Target would have learned its lesson a little bit after the gig workers' rights campaigns in 2020. Right. I was the one leading all of that. It was me and two other people. Yeah. And you would have thought they would have learned, because they weren't listening to their shoppers, and that took a hit. And granted, it was the pandemic, so there was no really way to make Target's numbers go down in that sort of situation as much. But they didn't learn their lesson there. So now they have really learned it the hard way last year and into this year. And I think it's going to stay that way until... I don't know if it's going to change at this point.
I don't know either. They really have to come genuine. I mean, people have already, they've made some efforts, and people are like too little too late. So I think there is a chance. There's always,
there's always a chance.
We're always rooting for a comeback, right? I just think you have to give us a reason to want you to come back. And like I said, that really relates to finding a campaign that doesn't come across as, hey, you're just trying to do this, and that comes across as genuine. And a genuine, I'm sorry, like you do have to wear the egg on your face and be like, yeah, we messed up. But I know there's a lot of egos, and I don't know if I don't know if they'll actually ever come down, step down from their
right. And that's one of the interesting things is, like, you think about, like, Target made that mistake, and it was spring-ish of 2025, so last year, and where their marketing campaign, or their lack thereof, didn't match their actual target audience. And they had the opportunity to go and fix that pretty much immediately and bounce back. But they didn't. And you see it as a cautionary tale of, like, if you don't correct your marketing mistakes publicly, it will come back and bite you, because at this point, like, if they had done it within the first 3 months, they would have been fine. But at this point, we all have changed our shopping habits dramatically, and we now have new behavior. Like, it's not just a behavior change, it's now a behavior pattern change. And so I don't see them bouncing back from that. So let's get off of Target before we go down. Listen, they have really fantastic t-shirt, like black t-shirts, but apart from that, we try not to go there anymore. I miss it.
There are a couple of things a little bit. Go to just for ease, but in terms of overall support, they definitely kind of lost me, unfortunately. So anyway, when the Target bullseye,
we will get off of the Target bullseye. We'll give them a break before I get a cease and desist letter. Lord have mercy. Listen, they know my name up there. It cost them $8.4 million.
Oh man! So really making an impact.
We kicked them where it hurt a little bit. So going back to marketing metrics, a lot of brands get obsessed with the little short-term metrics and the metrics that we're used to liking. So how do you help a brand balance the short-term metrics, because yes, you need to make sales right now and you need like cash flow, versus like the longer-term KPIs that lead to like long-term brand success and sustainability?
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of education, honestly. And as within the Hunter Blue agency, we talk to a lot of interesting partners, right? Data partners understand that there is a gap and they're honestly trying to right side and be that kind of one-stop shop partner. So
Mm-hmm.
as an agency, we continue to evaluate what that looks like and what metrics that we can use to be, less traditional metrics.
Yeah.
We also have the conversation, impressions are not created equal. Like, yeah, you may get 1 million impressions, but I swear it's not equal to, the 20K impressions that you're going to
Yep.
get like in an actual channel where your audience is actually watching. CTV can be like a great example of that. Like, not all CTV channels or options are created equal. Like, like I said, a million on, like Samsung's, run of sight is not the same as, being on like a Hulu or a Disney. And so it's a lot of understanding that. And like I said, that's one thing that I love about marketing, is that it is a continuous educational evolvement, and it's always, we're always growing and learning. And so I do love that we can always kind of test and try these new partners and agent and, other partners that we can work with. So that's really where we just honestly continue to have a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, and analyzing our data, right? When we do when we're analyzing our campaign performance, we're constantly looking for trends, looking for, like I said, additional metrics that we can help show like, hey, this is interesting. This is taking a route. Like, why don't we focus on and optimize towards this particular, metric versus what we originally thought. So, constant reviewing of our campaigns, but not so much because, if you review after a week, that's not really going to tell you anything, So balancing that act as well, of letting them know, yes, a campaign went live, but we're not, give it a little bit of time to lag up. And again, I know that those seem like very basic conversations, but that's still kind of the way of the land. And I don't really foresee that ever changing, that approach really ever changing. Because like I said, we are always constantly evolving, and I don't want to say the needle's moving, but it's
right.
what I mean, like 10 years ago, like no one could ever say like influencer marketing was going to be like the new thing to do, and like retail media networks and marketing is going to be like the new buzzword. But right here we are, like, right now, influencer marketing, retail marketing, it's those are kind of the new buzz things that our, overall marketing industry is focusing on.
Yeah, can you give me some examples that you've seen of short-term marketing KPIs versus long-term, longer tail KPIs?
Yeah, so in my overall perspective, short-term KPIs, like I said, your click-through rate, your impression delivery, how many eyeballs do we see? I think the longer-term engagement, at least on this CPG client that I work on, is definitely the sales, which does kick in a little bit later, and that we have to add in. But we also mix that with like brand lift studies or sales lift studies, and that's how we kind of are able to tie in the sale piece. But I would say that that's more of a long-term KPI, because like I said, that type of data does take longer. And then those type of like brand lift studies or sales lift studies take some time post campaign, to continue to build up the necessary audience and things of that nature.
Awesome. So if a business owner realizes their company has become a little bit too focused on the dashboards, what is kind of the first step they should be taking to kind of rebalance their strategy?
I would say expand your definition of growth.
Okay.
So whether you're building a long-term audience, trust, and internal team capability, not just the campaign performance. I would also say internally, take an audit of who's shaping your strategy. If we all are in the room that have the same perspectives, that diverse thinking is kind of not in the room, right? So you want to be able to look at it through all different angles. And then, like I said, I know I'm a soapbox, but build mentorship into your culture.
Right. And this is where like you have to get away from the CMOs making all of the strategy decisions. Like, how do we have more than just the C-suite and VPs even? Like, how do we get vertical with, how can we have the entry-level employees sitting in on these meetings?
Yes.
Because they are, go ahead.
I think we're saying the same thing. They're more tapped into what's going on and what the audience wants.
Exactly. And it's the people who have the boots on the ground who are actually tapped into these channels. Yes, you need like the leadership, but you need to be listening to people who actually have boots on the ground because they're more informed than a CMO who is in their mid 50s and is not actively on TikTok or not actively on Instagram and doesn't see what's actually, I don't want to say going on in the real world. That's the wrong terminology, but what's shaping culture in real time.
Yeah. And my last little tidbit, take yourself out of the target audience. I know it's so easy for us to think we're the target audience, but we're not.
Yep.
And rely on the data that really is showing you who your target audience is. And it's really, like I said, I know it's really hard to do. You're like, well, I would buy it like this, but we are not the target.
You're not your target audience. And just because you like a campaign does not mean your target audience is going to like a campaign.
Absolutely.
Like if that could be on a billboard, that would be great.
Oh my goodness.
Like you are not the target audience of your product 99% of the time.
At all.
There's some exceptions with like SaaS companies where they originally build the product to solve one of their internal problems. But 9 times out of 10, you are not the target audience of the company you work in.
Yeah, at all. And so I think that also is where you get some campaign fails, and just get some flops. We'll put it that way.
Sometimes you have to let the marketing director, the CMOs, the VPs rub their nose against the grindstone a little bit. And that hurts and it sucks because the agency is always the one who gets blamed.
Yeah, for sure. We're
always the ones who get blamed, but to some degree you have to kind of let them rub the nose and be like, hey, remember this email that I sent you that this was not a good idea? It hurts a little bit, but that's where it's like you got to let them choose to fail, but sometimes before they'll necessarily listen to what's actually best because you have more boots on the ground than the VPs and the CMOs do.
Yep. Which just alludes to that audit who is shaping your strategy, like audit who's in the room. And if you don't have multi-levels, from C-suite down in that with their diverse perspectives, you are to end up 9 times out of 10 with a really stale campaign. Because, this whole conversation has just been how agile people are and, how they want a genuine, note that connects with them. And if, like I said, if you're not the target audience, so find what actually connects with them.
Yep. And get away from the safe campaigns and get into what actually works in the long term.
Yes.
As much as possible.
Those typical like evergreen campaigns, people do get tired of it. Lower your frequency caps too. That's my other thing. I don't think brands are realizing how many times someone gets served one ad because it does turn into dislike of the brand. I have several brands that I'm like, if I see an ad for this one more time, mainly on YouTube because of my little guy, but I'm just like, a particular company because I've seen the ad 65,000 times.
Well, and it begins to feel a little bit stalkerish. Like, and we still like we know as consumers, like data privacy is no longer a thing clearly at this point. But if I'm seeing a brand everywhere, there's something to be said for seeing a brand everywhere. But at what point does it become, oh my God, I never want to see this brand ever again?
Yeah.
And there's a very fine line between the two. And that's the hard part.
It is. Yeah. So really take a look at your frequency caps, people, because I don't understand why sometimes.
And sometimes you're just wasting, at some point, you're also just wasting money.
Because at that point, either they love it or they hate it. And anything past a certain, I
threshold.
Yeah. I think 20 times is too much if you ask me. I know that a lot of people, that's like an industry standard, but for me, that's a little much. I know that, attention span and all of that is technically lower. And that's why people feel the need to have higher frequency. But again, it goes back to, you don't need to pummel people over the head if you know you're reaching the right audience and you know you have the right messaging. You don't need to.
Right. I don't need the same ad. Every time I get to a commercial break on Netflix or on Hulu, I don't need to see your ad.
Yeah, I don't.
And part of that's like, Netflix, are you doing your job as well? Which the platform has some responsibility in there that I don't think they take into consideration.
Yeah,
but that's a Netflix problem, and they are never going to listen to any of us.
They don't need to. I don't think so.
But they
they don't need to. I'll put it that way.
Awesome. So last segment for today is our rapid fire. So whatever first thing that comes to mind, it can be a word, it can be a sentence, it can be 2-3 sentences, just whatever first comes to mind. So you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Number 1, most overrated marketing channel.
Hulu.
Most underrated marketing channel.
I know this is rapid fire. I'm thinking.
It's okay. You're good.
I would say podcasts.
Ooh, okay.
Streaming or like audio streaming.
Audio streaming. Okay, I love it. If you had $20K to grow a business today, how would you spend it?
Marketing, of course.
Where in marketing?
Where in marketing? In a lot of like getting a really good influencer.
Okay. What is one marketing kill that you will die on?
People still watch TV. I started in cable, so it's just something near and dear to my heart. So people still watch TV, y'all. Traditional
rabbit ears cable. Yeah.
No, not like that, but just
listen, I have my rabbit ears still, okay?
Yeah. People still watch TV, whether it's CT. I mean, obviously it's getting into CTV, but I think just viewership has taken a turn. So yeah.
Okay. I love it. So last 2 questions. If you had to start a non-marketing business tomorrow, what would it be?
Something philanthropic, or like consulting wise.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Best marketing campaign you've ever seen.
Ooh. So this is funny, but I like Love Island, and the Meg Thee Stallion campaign for her bathing suits. I just thought that was like phenomenal. It was like where a genuine fan of the show comes on, and it just coupled with a good, it was just a great integration. I'll put it that way in my mind of meeting your actual audience where they are at.
Awesome. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If people would like to connect with you further, what is the best way for them to find you?
I'm old school. Just hit me up on LinkedIn. Okay. Tiffany Wade. I'll share my profile that Aly can post in the chat. But yeah, just connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to grow my network and talk marketing all day.
Awesome. For everyone tuning in today, thank you so much for joining, and we will catch you on the next episode of Humans of Growth.
Thank you.